Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome listeners. This is All Things Health with Heather Lounsbury. Thanks for joining me today. I am calling from Los Angeles, California. It is April 29th, 2009, and I'm really excited today to have a guest all the way from Australia. Her name is Ingrid Arna, and she is an expert on body image, and she has a wonderful company called My Body Love, and she'll be joining us momentarily. So for all of you who are interested in this topic, I'll give you the phone number now until we get her on the line. That's 347-884-9533. Again, that's 347-884-9533. And let's see if she's on. Nope, not yet. So I'll go ahead and talk about her a little bit. She is actually in Los Angeles, but she is originally from Australia. And she's probably moving here, and she's a great energy, lots of excitement, and I'm excited to have her on the show today. So, Ingrid, are you there? Okay. So I'm just waiting for her to call in. Hopefully it'll be any second now. Sorry about this, listeners. I guess I'll tell you a little bit about myself if it's your first time listening. I am an acupuncturist and herbalist based in Los Angeles. And one of my areas of expertise is mental health and addiction. So under that comes the categories of depression and autism, and also dealing with food addictions. And here she is. Let me get her on the air. Hi, Ingrid.
Hello.
Thanks for coming.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for joining me. How are you today?
I am very, very well, and how are you?
Good, thank you. I would love to start off with you telling our audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, great. So I created Body Love because I had an eating disorder myself for years. I started dieting at about the age of 12, which landed me in hospital at the age of 24 with a serious illness that was related to my eating disorder. So I decided that, living this way was just way too difficult and too painful, and I thought I wanted to really have a lot more joy in my life. So I launched Body Love as a movement to inspire women and to also inspire myself to really learn to love and honor who we are and what we have, regardless of size, age, shape, ethnicity, and social standing. I'm a coach. I'm a wellness coach. So I do one-on-one coaching. I run seminars. I have a really gorgeous T-shirt line that really celebrates every size. So with Body Love, you're not ranked by a number. We have a sizing system that goes from precious for petite, scrumptious for small, marvelous, luscious, extra luscious, and voluptuous.
Great. And with your coaching, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I do. I really help my clients to identify what the core issue is that's driving their body insecurity. So really to get well and to really recover and start to really like and appreciate who we are, it's really important to understand what is really going down. So typically, whether you're suffering from depression, you're abstaining from foods, you've got more worried about getting fat, you're anorexic, you have bulimia, you're overweight and you're not really comfortable in that space, what we've found is, and what I've found with my clients, is that really it's a core issue, a core feeling about yourself that really drives that behavior and those physical kind of symptoms. So for me, for example, I had a lot of rage, a lot of grief from certain things that had happened growing up, and it perpetuated in an eating disorder. So that's what we do in the coaching.
Great. And what kind of results have you been seeing with your clients?
It's amazing. It's great. I think people just need someone to support them. They're overwhelmed and they just need someone to say, look, I've been there and these are the steps that you can take. And as soon as we identify what the driving belief is, we can work to reprogram those beliefs. And I see, really wonderful recovery. And I think a lot of women through the media are told it's a really difficult illness to heal from, especially if you have a clinical issue like, say, anorexia or bulimia. But it is possible. It really is. You just need the right support. So there are heaps of people out there like me, like you, Heather, who works with, I know that you work with people with eating disorders. So you can get help from, so many different people. But I just really want to say to the listeners, it really is possible. It just takes, one step in the right direction and you're on your road to recovery.
Oh, I like your positive message. Thank you for that.
Well, I went through an excruciating, I really understand and I can identify, when people are in pain. I went through a very tumultuous time. I was struggling. I kept going around in circles. Sometimes I'd take one step forward and two steps back. But having the right, I think, support. I've also got an ebook for free for everybody. So if they want to go to mybodylove.com, it's called The 10 Rituals to Body Love. You can see, I've got 10 concrete steps that you can take, which are really easy to achieve. So that'll be really great for anyone who wants to get more body love.
Great. Well, we'll definitely mention your website and this promotion a few times during the show today, and definitely at the end.
Okay,
Let me
great.
give out the phone number again, just so people have it. It's 347-884-9533. That's 347-884-9533. And let's move on to our next question. So how have you become more confident in your body image? What exactly are the steps that you have taken?
I think, once again, I keep, bringing up the point about really identifying my core issue, and I had such enormous amount of, negative dialogue where I was constantly berating myself. I wasn't good enough. And I really had to start to manage, I suppose, my mind. Often we all suffer from the monkey mind that runs rampant, and it's really important to get control of that. So starting with, positive affirmations, even if you don't believe it at the beginning, I say fake it till you make it. So I think, it's really about respecting yourself first. And if you can just focus on one thing that you really like about yourself, and I'm not talking about the size of your breasts or the size of your bottom, it's really about you, who you really are. So is it your humor? Is it your compassion? Is it your creativity? Start to really celebrate that part of you that you really like. I think, also expressing gratitude for what we have. We're not all going to look like supermodels. It doesn't mean that we're not beautiful. There's a whole lot of steps that I have. I also, once again, will go back to really identifying that core issue. So I had to really make peace with my past and put that to bed. I think a lot of times people live in that past with all that past drama and trauma. So for me, It's about getting over that so that you can sort of, it gives you a lot of peace. And from there, you can work to more, really deeply, I suppose, more in love with yourself.
Well, thank you for that. And who inspires you? Who are your mentors?
I think any woman who's really out there, carving her own, sort of carving out her own path, women who are really passionate about what they believe in, who are confident in who they are, those sorts of women. I think there's some great actresses out there. A friend of mine, Cameron Manheim, I think she's wonderful. She obviously doesn't fit to the typical stereotype of an actress, and she went out there and got an agent and sort of paved her own way. So anyone who's really just, pioneering and confident in themselves. I think all women, though, really just women in general, whether they, are sort of leading the way or not, I really just look up to all of them. I don't think it's easy sometimes to be a woman. So I just have an enormous amount of respect for all women, really.
Well, then you have an inspiration every moment of your day, I guess.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I love meeting people, and I love, also learning from them. I learn a lot from other women that I meet, obviously also from, people like you. And I think that we need to sort of more join forces. And I think if we can create like a trickle-on effect where we all decide to sort of be more connected and more confident in ourselves and not buy into the social ideals of beauty, I think that's going to just create a wave of this new a new sort of sense of confidence that I think that we all really need.
Yes, we do. We definitely do. And so what do you think of those websites that encourage girls and women to have an eating disorder?
I think they're pretty gross. I think they should be shut down. I think it's regulated also by the government potentially. I mean, I do believe in freedom of speech, but I think it is, really detrimental to people's health. I think it's really a joke. So, yeah, I'm not very keen on those. What do you think about them?
Oh, well, they definitely make me sick. And for those of you listening who might not know what I'm talking about, there are websites out there that actually encourage girls and women to become anorexic and bulimic and starve themselves and encourage them to be underweight and be unhealthy. And And I think it's just a crime. It's very, especially if a young girl comes across one of these and she has no clue what's right or wrong or what's safe. And I wish there was a way to regulate them, like make them for adults only, sort of like pornography sites where only adults would be able to log in. I'd like them to not exist at all, of course, but
no, I agree with that completely.
It's such a shame. So what do you...
One thing that I will say to the callers out there who, are older, not necessarily older, but women and more adults, if you do meet young women who are struggling, to really try to guide them, maybe send them to my site, send them to someone like Heather, but they can get free content from my site, email me questions, because I know they're like sponges and they're just forming their beliefs and their habits. So it's important that we sort of show them the way, I suppose.
Yes, and I also encourage our listeners out there to be a mentor to a young girl. If I think we all can find the time. I know most of us are very busy, but to find someone that you can sort of help and support, especially those girls who are in need, maybe our foster care child, or someone who's at risk, to find someone that you can help and support them in their growth and journey. I'm a huge
maybe Heather, one time we can have a call. We do a call to mentor young girls.
Oh, I like that idea.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Definitely, let's do that in the future. And so let's move on to a few personal questions. With what do you do for exercise? How did you get started? What motivates you to exercise?
I used exercise as a way to really start my recovery. What I did was, when I was going through all my anguish and I'd had an operation and I had to have a few more, and I really didn't want to go back for one of the operations. They wanted to, remove my fallopian tubes, which was not a good thing. So I had to spend a lot of time connecting to myself, and the way that I did that was go on these long, beautiful walks, hiking. Now, I love the gym. I really believe in weight training, especially to build muscle mass. But if you can just get out a little bit in nature, whether it's going, by the beach for half an hour or up in, sort of stuck in the woods or hiking or whatnot, that way I really use that time as a sacred exercise, really connect with myself. I used to say, with every step that I take, my body is getting stronger. With every step that I take, I'm releasing any anger that I have. I had a lot of anger, a lot of rage. When I also started eating for the first time after 8 or 9 years, I actually put on quite a bit of weight. So, my body and my metabolism had been so affected. So, I really did have to recondition my body, my muscles, but mostly my mind. And to really, I think, I'm sort of going off on a tangent, but
okay.
I use exercise really as a mind-body exercise. If I'm feeling exhausted one day, I do not want to be in the bright lights at the gym. I'm not going there. I'm going to go out to nature where I'm in the fresh air, and I'm going to connect with myself. I do my prayer. I do my rituals. And one thing that I have that, I think a lot of women who are more, overweight, there's a fine line between really embracing that. But a lot of women, they kind of want to lose a little bit of weight. They might not feel confident in themselves, but they're eating a lot to, comfort whatever emotion it is that's sort of driving that behavior. But I have a technique that I coined to help myself, and I really related my weight also to a self-protection mechanism. I felt scared. I was fearful about certain issues. I was angry. And I think my body was really holding on to weight as a self-protection. Now, that's great. Your body's there to do that for you. But I actually wanted to be strong and lean. I don't want to be thin, but I want to be strong and lean. And I wanted to have a, charging metabolism so that I could eat more. It's all about being able to eat more. And, I love food, and I wanted to really have a sense of pleasure with it all. And so I had coined this idea that I came up with called mental liposuction. So it was really about when each step I, took, I would imagine the emotion coming from my body, leaving my body, leaving, around my tummy, around my bottom. It sounds quite full on, but I did that, and I felt that, it helped me greatly to release, and it actually then helped me deal with the emotions, and I was ready to let go of those. So that's a technique that you can use, and I can also write about that and put a little piece on my blog if anyone wants to know more about the process that I've created there.
Oh, I think that's a great idea. It's the same concept exists in Chinese medicine that we hold on to weight as a way to protect ourselves from our feelings and the outside world. And until that is dealt with, whatever your issues might be, it's going to be more of a challenge to lose that weight. So
yeah, I think eating well, and I agree with you, and I think eating well and exercising is really important. But I almost found like I had a block with that when, I hadn't dealt with the core issue once again.
Yes.
So, yeah, if you can work with that, whether it's with acupuncture or, I think it'd be great to have a combination of a few things. I've used acupuncture myself and I've just absolutely loved it and see the results, whether it is to have, do a little bit of therapy and then go on those, self-communion, mind-body type walks. They're great things to put into place.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I always encourage my patients who have any kind of mental health issue to get the traditional support as well as like a therapist or a life coach.
Yep. Definitely.
To guide them through it, because my help can only go so far. So
I think that's true, and I think one thing that I'd say is because I went to a lot of doctors and specialists when I was recovering, and I had a really, pretty trying time with it actually. I found it was a bit challenging for me to find the right person. So I'd just say that intuitively, you don't feel comfortable with that person for whatever reason that you go to, just change. It's not you. Everyone's different. People communicate differently, and if you do not feel safe, you need to feel safe, I think, with your practitioner. And if you don't feel safe and the person really identifies with you and you identify with them, then I would strongly urge you, to get.
Oh, definitely. If no matter how talented they are, or if they're supposedly the best in whatever town or city you live in, if you can't share with them and totally give yourself over to their treatments, then I highly recommend finding the person that fits for you, and no matter what their reputation might be. So thanks for sharing that idea with our listeners. Let me give out the number again. Everyone's being shy today. It's 347-884-9533. That's 347-884-9533. We've got Ingrid Arna on the line all the way from Australia, so let's take advantage of having her on the show today. So let's see where we're going to go from here. If you were ever in a rut or intimidated about exercise or your growth, what do you recommend to girls?
If you're intimidated in terms of changing or healing?
Yeah, changing or healing or feeling like, oh my gosh, this is too much.
Oh, too much, like overwhelmed?
Yeah.
Okay. I think usually when I'm overwhelmed, I think one of the things I talk about are really knowing what your core triggers are. I think, I just say to any young girls who are really battling with it, usually if you're really tired, and for me, I know when I'm exhausted, it puts me into more of a spiral and brings out all my fear-based stuff. So I'd say really know how to sort of learn to self-nurture. But kind of not answering a question here. Maybe I'm not really clear on the question. Can you repeat it again?
What would you recommend to girls who are feeling overwhelmed by the idea of recovery and change and
I think speaking to someone. I think about speaking to someone that you do look up to get some guidance. I think going to nurturing sites. I think reading up on health and well-being and, feeling, scared or fearful or not good about yourself and insecure and berating yourself and standing in front of the mirror and obsessing about what you look like is not, healthy. It's not good for you, and you can change it. And I think it's really about learning about what is healthy. So maybe by starting to sort of read about, go and even pick up a Self magazine, start reading about health and well-being so that you can start to educate yourself, because you're bombarded by images that constantly are telling you you're not good enough. And, it is brainwashing. So unfortunately, we've got to get out there and sort of wake up to the fact that it is. And the reason why they create these images, many of them which are very difficult to achieve, they're illusionary images which are created by big advertising and marketing companies that really perpetuate, I think, body insecurity and self-image issues. They want you to buy products. They're trying to sort of make you say that you'll feel better when you buy a product. So I think it's just very important to wake up to that, and I think it is changing. I think there are some really great companies out there that are starting to really nurture women more and support all sorts of different sizes of beauty, including different ethnicities and different body shapes and sizes. But, I think it's just really important to start educating ourselves and not buy into the bogus reality that a lot of big companies create.
Yeah, I just think it's a shame, the images that are out there, because I remember when I was a teenage girl, I was very thin, not unhealthily thin, but I was very thin, and I still felt like, wait, there's something wrong with me here because I don't look like every woman in the magazines, and that definitely affected my self-esteem. Luckily, I never ended up with an eating disorder, but I can relate to how that can happen.
I think one thing to realize, even if we don't have a clinical issue, being in an eating disorder or whatnot, but if we're just insecure because we don't look like models, I think that really can cause a lot of issues in terms of depression. It can perpetuate into other areas with young girls in terms of studies, because they're depressed, they don't want to maybe study as much, they don't want to participate with different groups and whatnot because they're not feeling confident, and I feel like that is such a shame. So I think, as older women can also sort of educate women to say that these images is really just marketing. It's not real. And I think what I believe, and I think this is the truth, and that is that we're all beautiful and we all have beauty, and we're all unique. And it's really, I think, falling in love with those unique qualities that we have. We're not going to all look the same, and that's great. We don't want to all be the same. I know. How boring would that be?
So boring.
Yeah.
So thank you for that answer. Again, I encourage all of you to call who are listening. That number again is 347-884-9533. And how did you decide to start your company? Like, what was the trigger? Obviously, you were on your own path of healing.
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I wanted to always be, independent, and I was on a mission. I thought, if I've gone through this, so many other women have, and I wanted to create the T-shirt line. I really created it first for myself because I was struggling so much to get well, and I wanted something that I could put on my body with T-shirt to really help shift my consciousness. So as we were just talking about, we've had so many images that are negative. I wanted something positive on me. So, I just am on this complete mission to really inspire other women to hopefully see them jump skip some of the pain that I went through. So, I started off started off Body Love in Australia about 6 or 7 years ago. Then I moved to the States and went to New York, and I raised a bit of capital, and I launched the line there. And moving into lots of different directions. I'm actually pitching a reality TV show for women, which is going to be a life-changing series, and hopefully, we get that on the air. So, I'm a creative, and I just wanted to do something that I was passionate about. I have to ask you, why did you set up your business?
Oh, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. Well, it initially started my path started in high school, actually. I had mono, and my doctor at the time didn't know what to do with mono. He just said, oh, well, you're just going to have to be sick and live with it. And I ended up missing a few months of school and staying sick off and on for almost a year, and it just didn't sound right to me that there was absolutely nothing I could do. And with that, I stopped eating meat, and I had to research nutrition because there was nothing out there back in the early 80s on being a vegetarian unless you lived in Southern California, and there was no internet back then. So I was learning about nutrition and supplements and improving your immune system starting in high school. Then in college, I worked in a food co-op, a health food store, and learned a bunch there about nutrition and supplements. There were people much older than me working there who taught me so much. I'm forever grateful to them, so any of them might be listening. And then after college, I moved to Los Angeles, and I realized that I could do what I love learning for a living. It was getting to the point where friends and family were asking me for advice on certain health issues, much, nothing too serious, just like the common cold and bladder infections and so forth. And I realized, like, wow, I can help people on a broader scale, and I love learning about health and food, and it just developed from there. And I went to graduate school for Chinese medicine, and here I am. I've been out of school almost 10 years now, and love what I do. And part of the reason I started the show is to try to get this information out to more people than just my private practice, because obviously I can only treat so many people in a week. So I'm hoping this show, with all the different topics I'm going to be discussing, guests I'm going to have, that will get the information out there, and it doesn't cost anything, which is great. A lot of people are on a tight budget these days. So, yeah, here I am.
That's fantastic. Do you believe that all sort of, illness comes from some sort of emotional issue?
Actually, I do. I've seen in over 10 years of experience the manifestation of emotional issues leading to physical ailments, and I never pressure any of my patients to have to look at that, but if they're open to it, then we can discuss it and work on it. And if it's something really serious, I will refer them to some kind of therapist for them to go to. But Chinese, that's one of the strong bases of Chinese medicine, is that every physical ailment has an emotional issue to it, like low back pain is fear, PMS is repressed anger, and I could just...
Oh, is that what I have? I didn't know what PMS was. Maybe I've still got something that I haven't dealt with. It's improved to about 80%, but I might have to come and see you. Okay.
I'd love it, but PMS, and that's another side effect of how women are supposed to behave in most Western cultures. Is we're not supposed to be angry. We can be afraid or scared or anxious and crying easily, but when it comes to anger, that's something that we're supposed to suppress, or we're considered a bitch or too aggressive, and then it manifests as PMS. And I see probably at least half the women that I treat have some form of PMS, and it's very, very rare that someone doesn't have any menstrual issues at all, but PMS is the...
So how do you deal with then releasing that anger with Chinese medicine?
Oh, good question. Well, it's a combination of talking through it, making some changes in their life that might be causing the anger to keep manifesting. If they have a job they don't like, or they're in an unhealthy relationship, working on making those situations better. And then there's dietary recommendations for releasing anger. Dark leafy greens, for example, helps your body flush out any residual anger. And then there's acupuncture points that do that as well. And I also do what's called emotional release treatments, which are very powerful and can help release old emotional trauma and even bring up memories that you might have suppressed. And anytime you're not dealing with an emotion, it can make you sick, and something like PMS is a warning sign to deal with it, so hopefully something more serious down the road won't happen to you. So I encourage anyone listening to, if they're having any physical ailments, to definitely look into seeing what might be bothering them. And it could be something that seems very minor, but it could be something much bigger that you need to deal with. And I know it can seem very scary to look at, but once you work through it, it's there's nothing better.
Yeah, it's amazingly freeing. I think another really great way to get rage out too is to really be honest with yourself and ask yourself, what am I angry about? because underlying usually the cause, or the emotion and what's going on, a really clear, explanation, so that you can ask yourself, you can do this technique after we finish this, show. It's like, what am I angry about? And you can just write it down and then sort of process it, look at it, maybe speak to a therapist about those core issues, just burn it. Forgiveness is also a great tool, learning to forgive yourself, to forgive others, because they say that forgiveness is one of the greatest acts of self-love, actually, because when we don't forgive, we tend to be very bound in that anger. So I've had to forgive a lot in my past, and it was sometimes challenging. It doesn't mean I condone the behaviour or necessarily what went down, but forgiveness just brings a sort of sense of peace, and you can start to let go of that rage. I think one of the other things that you also said too, Heather, about, women's anger, usually isn't typically accepted, and, it doesn't necessarily take, yelling at someone and storming. I don't necessarily think that's great. Sometimes it is necessary. I've definitely had one or two screams and yells at certain people in my family when I was going through my healing, and we're always told to try to be at peace and to speak from a place of love. Sometimes, I think a great way to deal with it too is to write things down, and to even send letters. And I think that old traditional way, you can't, rather than sort of, fuming up, but also just releasing rage through, movement, through those hiking, exercises where you go and you sort of allow rage to just flow through your body. Just dance and shake it out at home in the bedroom by yourself. Pump up the music and imagine it coming out of your body. A good run, whatever it is. But I think one of the best things to do too is just, as I said, just writing it down and then burning it and seeing it sort of leave your body.
Yeah, I actually, cardio workouts definitely helps release anger. So anytime you get your heart rate up, it also gets your chi flowing, which is the vital energy that flows through our bodies. And the writing thing, I definitely encourage my patients to do. They can either send them or not send the letters, depending on what they feel comfortable and safe with, and you can even, especially if you're not going to be sending it, make it as ugly as you want it to be, just to get the anger out. And then forgiving yourself, because a lot of times, especially girls and women who have eating issues, they beat themselves up for having the anger, or that I did something wrong to deserve this happening to me. So it's very important to forgive yourself, as well as the person you feel has harmed you in some way, and that's also very healing.
Yes, another really good one too is releasing resentments. You can write these down and then sort of do a release. And I could say, I resent the social pressure that we have on all women to look a certain way and be a certain way in order to be successful, lovable, and so forth. Like, that's a big resentment that I've had. Also, things that I've had to deal with, I've had to be very honest about issues with, say, my father. He always used to put a lot of pressure on me as a child, and I would say, if I'm writing down a letter, I'd say, I'm angry at my father for telling me that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't beautiful enough, that he didn't express his love to me, that he was abusive in many ways. So writing down be really honest with yourself, and it'll be amazing the change that you'll see in yourself by just really going through a releasing sort of writing exercise like that. And if you do feel that you want to discuss something with a person, if you can do it more than a blaming exercise, you can say, look, I know that you did your best, but I really feel very angry about, what went down. A lot of these issues do come and stem from our childhood. So if you're not too sure about why you're behaving a certain way, see if you can track back to your childhood and just ask yourself, close your eyes and just say, look, what happened when I was younger? And really start to look back into your past. And you say, you might not think that you remember a lot of your childhood, but if you're just sort of silent with yourself and do a bit of a meditation on it and just start to imagine yourself playing as a child, interactions that you might have had as a child, some of those memories, will start to come up, and then you can start to write those letters from that place of, really remembering the emotion and the hurt that might have gone on during your formative years.
Oh, I like that meditation. I'm going to have to remember that to tell my patients to do that.
Yeah.
There is that issue of sometimes, especially if it's a very traumatic childhood, people just have no memories at all. They just to protect themselves and survive the situation they were in, just blank it out and don't remember. But then they have things like panic attacks later in life or other serious issues that come up. So I
definitely
remember that meditation for sure.
Definitely. And sometimes, I think it'd be great, to remember. And sometimes I don't think it's important to remember completely. You can also just, ask for the universe, God, the trees, whatever you believe in, to bring healing and a sense of calm and peace, to really download a sense of ease and grace, and to bring or to guide you also to the right people to encourage your healing. To, don't be frustrated if you can't remember.
Yes, that's definitely key. Sometimes it's just not going to happen, but focus on the healing. I highly recommend.
I think when we set the intention in place that we do want to be healthy, vital, strong people, body love, or all the stuff that we're talking about at the moment. Whilst I know that I do specifically focus on women. Men too go through a lot of similar issues like this also. So, I think when we just have a very clear intention of really wanting to get well and be healthy and strong human beings and to live with a lot more joy and pleasure, we start to create and manifest the right support base for us, whether it's a new friend who might be able to share some wisdom, whether it's someone that you bump into the street who just tells you about a book to read. People show up. So just by saying to the universe, I am, or act more of an affirmative. So, I am well, I am vital, I intend to be confident and really connected and start to really honor myself. Whether I fit into a size pair 4 jeans or a size 14 or 16 pair, whether I can't even fit into jeans, I'm going to start practicing self-love, and I'm going to develop this relationship within myself. And what actually happens with that as well is there's that sort of feeling of hope. There's a feeling of joy in the body, which is healing unto itself. Just that act, that simple act. I went out to a book publisher recently, and she said, there's nothing really new in this book. And I said, really? I said, well, it's not about new. Look at all the new diets and new this and new the new weight loss product. It's not about new and breakthrough. What it's about is about connecting to ourselves. So and people aren't doing that. And, we've got age-old wisdom that yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. They're not working because most of them are so unhealthy, and people are trying to emulate, the lifestyles of people who live in L.A. and New York, and a lot of those people are very, unhealthy. Don't emulate that. You don't want to emulate that.
No, definitely not.
And I think, I was on a constant diet from the age of 12, and what most of them, did was really ruin my central nervous system, and you'll know all about that, Heather. My metabolism, I lost a lot of muscle elasticity rather than, gaining muscle mass, and that I can't eat as much when I don't have good muscle elasticity because it's a muscle that's burning my fat, and it's my engine. So now I eat, and I'm not a nutritionist, but I've learned a lot, and I eat from, great experts that I've both, researched and interviewed, who are my associates that I work with, and I've also had a lot of guidance, myself by going to see practitioners, and that is to eat, 6 small meals a day. I eat a lot of proteins and fats. I need the fat. I used to eat no fat, consisting on, egg white omelets were just ridiculous. I was afraid to eat a full egg and egg yolk. I now eat probably 2 at least a day. I have very low cholesterol, but I need those fats for my brain function. There are a lot of really great fats out there that really nurture the body. I have a lot of olive oil. I cook with coconut oil, and there's so much great information. If you go to YouTube and you Google coconut oil, it is a saturated fat, but it actually helps with speed metabolism, very good for thyroid function. Have you used it? Do you ever recommend coconut oil at all, Heather?
I do recommend coconut oil and eating healthy fat. That was going to be my next question for you, is to talk about foods. And the importance of eating healthy fat is that your brain needs healthy fat to function. It also regulates your hormones. Your hormones
Definitely.
made up of fat or cholesterol, and also your thyroid depends on it. So for those of you who are worried about having avocado or olive oil, nuts and seeds, it's actually something your body needs to survive. So please don't be afraid. I get that question a lot, like, oh, aren't nuts high in fat? I'm like, well, it's your body needs it. I mean, I don't recommend having a lot of saturated fat, coconut oil being the exception, but the healthier fats, again, nuts and seeds, avocado, olive oil, flax oil, those are all really great sources of fat to help you. And there might be some women listening who have issues with fertility, and that's key to make sure you're getting a sufficient amount of healthy fat in your diet to be fertile. I
really see that I don't function very well at all without the fats. Seriously, I just don't. Now that I've gotten so used to it, I see, you're without it for so long, and now that I'm, used to it, and it's like my body just goes, oh, thank you so much. I actually, I eat more fat than I've ever eaten before in my life because it's a good fat, so just repeating that. And I'm more slim and toned and healthier than I've ever been. I've also lost all, those red marks that some people, I don't know, there's a special term for it. You get it on the back of your arms.
Yes.
I also had it on my bottom, I confess. I had these red little dots. It was not very attractive, okay, and it wouldn't go away. I went to all these dermatologists. They gave me all these, potions and creams, still wouldn't go away. And as soon as I started having a lot of olive oil on my salads and eating the coconut oil and putting the coconut oil in my smoothies, all of that went away.
Yeah, those bumps, and don't quote me on this, but it's either a vitamin A or E deficiency that's causing those bumps. So it makes sense that you starting to eat the healthy fats made them go away. And I see that a lot of people have those bumps, and I'm pretty sure it's called hyperkeratosis. But
yes, I think you're right.
You could be screwing around the name of it. and most MDs, they just say, oh, use cream, but it doesn't fix the problem.
Yes, definitely.
So what do you eat in a typical day? And every person's different.
Oh gosh, well I'm not, I really believe in metabolic typing, and I have a really great friend called Dr. Philip Goulier, and there's also the guy Paul Check who created, who's a wonderful trainer, and they talk about metabolic typing. So my metabolic type really needs, fats and proteins, and I think the majority of people are a fat and protein diet. So I eat a lot of vegetables, salads, eggs, fish. I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan. I don't eat dairy, but I do have things like goats, milk feta. I have a little bit of a naughty habit, I'll confess. I do have a coffee once a day, but I don't drink alcohol. Not because I don't necessarily, I think it's a bad thing to have a bit of alcohol here and there, some red wine, but I don't because for me, it seems to just push me to, really makes me feel very unwell. Even from one glass of alcohol, I don't think my body, and I've gotten to know my body very well, it doesn't process sugars very well. So any alcohol converts to sugar. So I really stay away from it. It makes me feel emotionally not balanced. It's just not good. So for me, I've identified the foods, and including alcohol, that don't make me feel good, and I just don't eat them. Don't like to say that I've done a bit of damage because I'm working towards the fact that my body is completely healthy and healed, but I did do damage with my body. So I'm now very careful about really nurturing myself with, really great food. And I believe that food is medicine. I think if we eat the right foods that really support us, I want food to really give me energy. I also want to have fun eating food. It's a great time to connect with my friends. I mean, I used to go out for dinner and not eat. That's how unwell I was. Now I go to dinner and I really enjoy it and I really get into it. But I really don't break out. Like if I go to a dinner, I'm not going to go and order the fried dumplings. It's just not what I do because I want to feel great. And when I eat those foods, I usually don't. So some people might say that I'm strict. I don't believe it's strict. I have a way of life that I follow, and I pretty much follow it religiously. And, everyone's different. Different foods are going to work to really nurture them. Some foods that are good for me and it might not be right for you. You might need a lot of more carbohydrates, say, for example. Heather, I don't know what you eat, but I don't do a lot of rice, and I don't believe, I'm not saying that I believe in the low-carb diet at all. It's just my body type, and I think what I would say to people is really find out what is best for you. There is not a one-size-fits-all solution, and that's what a lot of diets do. They sort of group everyone in one sector or one, with one diet, and everyone needs different foods to nurture themselves. So if you could go to a nutritionist, if you could get metabolic typing done, then that would be, I think, a great place to start.
Yes, I have to agree with these diets. Most of them are very unhealthy, but also, again, it's not going to work for everyone. It might be great for a certain part of the population, but most of the time it's not going to work, and they're unrealistic. They expect you to do these extreme things, and that can't last long term. And usually, doing something extreme is going to hurt you in the long run anyway. So what I do with my patients, unless they have like a severe sugar addiction or something, I slowly get them into healthier choices and doing the unhealthy stuff occasionally, because I think if for most people, if they deny themselves completely of a treat, they're just going to go back and...
Or you can create your own treats, special treats. That's what I do.
healthy versions of sweets are always...
It's body love food in the making.
Excuse me?
It's body love food in the making. Mostly in my kitchen right now. Sorry, I'm just making a joke.
You're funny. And yeah, like doing things, there's desserts out there now that are fruit juice sweetened or sweetened with agave or brown rice syrup, and that's always going to be better than doing refined sugar, or high fructose corn syrup, of course, is the worst. So I encourage people to stay away from those. And something I always recommend is eating organic as much as possible. I know a lot of people think that organic is way too expensive, or maybe you live in a place that's hard to get, but it is getting easier to find pretty much anywhere in the States. I don't know how it is in Australia, but it's very key for your health to avoid having pesticides and antibiotics and steroids in your foods, because that definitely has long-term...
I eat all hormone-free. I always make sure that my meat is grass-fed, that my chicken is organic or free-range, So, yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, so how easy is it to get organic food in Australia right now?
We have a lot of markets, and it's becoming more and more common. They do have a lot of those delivery services where you can order online and it's delivered. We have some communities in Australia that are very pretty much all organic, would you believe? There's just, kind of like more like the beach communities, but it is becoming extremely popular. People are very passionate about health in Australia, and we're not so commercialized in many ways. So whilst, obesity and body image issues and eating disorders are definitely, quite epidemic in Australia as well. We are very into health and well-being. Also, holistic health is very popular. And, organics are pretty much readily available. But, it is an area of interest that's, and demand that's really growing. And I think as we have more demand, hopefully it'll be even more readily available for everybody. And I think that's sort of following suit here in the United States. Is that correct?
Yes, it's incredible to see. I know when I first started learning about food, when I was 14, 15 years old, it was virtually impossible. I lived just outside Washington, D.C., and there was one place to get sprouts and tofu and anything organic at all back then. But now I think it's pretty much everywhere. I don't know about the middle of the country, but I know Whole Foods is opening up everywhere, and the chain Trader Joe's, they have a lot of organic options as well, and it's a more affordable than what you would find at Whole Foods.
Yeah, definitely.
And then there's going to your local farmers market. They're more likely, if you're going to smaller farms, they're more likely to avoid using pesticides or steroids in their food production. So luckily it's pretty common now. Even my family shops at Whole Foods now, which I never
Wow. Wow. That's great.
I was the strange one growing up, but now it's pretty common everywhere. So it's good to hear that Australia's doing the same.
Definitely.
How about genetically modified foods? I'm just curious for my own.
Oh, we really don't have a lot. We just definitely, we don't have a lot, and that's something I think you have to be more careful of here. I think just in terms of relating back everything to the food, it's really about nourishing your body with the right food really nourishes, I believe, your mind and your spirit. As we said before, the food is medicine. So if you can just eat sort of nourishing foods that make you feel full and satisfied, and that's why the fats are so important too. It's also about making sure that you feel really satiated. I don't want to be hungry and feel hungry. It's not about that at all. So it's really about, I eat a lot of food, and I've really built up my metabolism, and one of the ways that I've built up my metabolism is actually training my body to process and to metabolize food by eating these 6 small meals a day. So I really believe in that. Like your body is like an engine, and it needs to be constantly fueled. After 2 or 3 hours, I need to eat again. People might think, oh, Ingrid, you eat a lot, but I'm not eating massive meals, but I'm eating kind of constantly, kind of believing in the whole grazing theory. I'm not snacking on crackers, it's more, fruits and vegetables and things like that. But I think so, really taking out the time to do that for yourself, whether it's just going to the market every Sunday afternoon and preparing for the week, it's another act, I believe, of self-love. It's an affirming that I deserve to take the time for an hour every Sunday to plan my meals or to plan my family's meals. If you want to cook up on a Sunday so that you can have those dinners ready and waiting for you when you get home. Like, I'm starving by 6 p.m. If you're working late at night at work, another thing that I used to do was take, my dinner home, or find a restaurant or a cafe that, delivers. There's always healthy options. It's just sort of, making sure that, when you're getting over hungry, that you have a place that you can call to deliver directly to your work, or that you have a meal, in your work fridge that's ready for you. Because I find that if I get over hungry, that's when I tend to potentially make, mistakes, and I could potentially, kind of want to pick up a packet of chips or whatnot. Another sort of important.
Overeat.
Yeah, definitely overeating.
I'm very cranky.
Yeah, I get cranky too. And I think, if you do overeat, that's okay. This is not about punishing. It's about being kind to yourself. So if you overeat, it's not the end of the world. Next day you start afresh. But
you know what, Ingrid, we have a caller.
Oh, wow.
Let's see who it is. Okay. Hello, caller?
Hello.
Hi, who am I talking to?
My name is David.
Hi, David. Thanks for calling in. Do you have a question for me or Ingrid?
Yes, I do. I have a question. I want to know how I can feel better about going to the beach with the summer quickly approaching with this gut I'm carrying around.
Oh,
thank you.
Very good question. Okay, so what are you doing at the moment? Where did the gut come from?
It came from inactivity. I had some health problems, and I've been unable to exercise like I used to, and it just kind of got away from me, so to speak.
Okay. So intuitively, what are some of the things that you think that you can put in practice to start having a bit of a healthier lifestyle? If you can't exercise, can you look at your diet, for instance?
I can exercise now. So. Okay. Yeah, and yes, I can look at my diet, I suppose.
So what do you normally eat in a given day?
I eat 3 fairly healthy meals, and I'm not much of a snacker.
Okay.
Maybe I need to eat more often. I'm not sure, but I do eat 3 meals a day. For breakfast, I'll usually have some eggs and some whole wheat toast, or some sort of whole grain cereal and some fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Lunch can be anything from a sandwich to a salad, and dinner, proteins and carbohydrates and vegetables as well. I do have a sweet tooth, I have to admit.
What, sorry? You have a sweet tooth?
At night, once in a while, I'll give in to some sweets, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, with the inactivity, and there might be a few, hidden sugars in there, I have to really sort of analyze, what sort of sources you're having on your meal. When you say cereal, it's like how much cereal, because and which cereal, because a lot of the cereals do have a lot of hidden sugars. You might not be actually aware of how much sugar you're actually eating and consuming in a day. And with the inactivity, you're not burning it off. So whilst it sounds like you do actually have quite a good diet and it's quite healthy, I'd have to really analyze it, and I'm more than happy to give you a free consultation, and we can talk more at length about this so that we can actually sort of put some solutions in place. But obviously now that you can exercise, I think starting to move your body. Secondly, you don't have to be perfect. You might have a bit of a tummy, and you don't have to look like, once again, like a model, or have a perfectly chiseled abs to go to the beach and have fun. So once you sort of take that pressure off yourself, and you will lose weight if you really want to, and you put certain steps in place, but you don't have to be perfect. And I think that's one of the most important things to realize. You can go to the beach tomorrow and enjoy yourself if you can just sort of you don't have to look great. And look, a lot of women love most about, men is their charm and their personality and their humor. But you don't have to be perfect.
Well, thank you.
Does that help at all?
It does.
David, we're going to be ending the show in a couple minutes, so
you can email me, David.
Okay.
You can email me, Ingrid at mybodylove.com, and we'll set up a call, okay?
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. So I'm really grateful that a man called, because we basically have been talking about women this whole time. So thanks.
I know. They're so cute. A lot of men, fortunately, and I feel a little sorry for them because they don't have an outlet as much. It's becoming an issue that affects them just as much, really, not as much, but, a lot. And because they don't have the emotional outlet necessarily, they don't talk about it as much. So they need body love and healthy lifestyles just as much as, I suppose, women do.
Absolutely. So we're about to run out of time. So Ingrid, if there's, of course, I want you to promote your website and any other.
Well, yeah. If anyone wants to join up for free at my site, you get your free ebook, which is this 10 steps. It really goes through a whole lot of different body loving rituals that I practice myself. That's really helped me gain an emotional, physical sense of well-being. If you have any questions, you want to email me directly, please feel free. I would love to answer them. And if you are interested in coaching as well, please email me and we can potentially set up a time. And I also want to say, Heather, thank you so much. And before I go, I also wanted to just say a really important thing, and we can all do this easily. Sometimes find that we don't rest enough and we don't take time out to really whether it's just having a bath at home or making sure that we have a siesta on the weekend. That type of sort of self-care is really important, and I think sometimes women tend to feel guilty when they take time to really have a bit of personal space.
I couldn't agree more. Even if it's, if you're married with kids or a single mom or whatever it is, if you can just even take 15, 20 minutes to sit with yourself. Oh, we have a minute left. So thank you so much, Ingrid, for being on the show. Again, her website is mybodylove.com, and I think people should definitely check out her site. She has a lot to offer, obviously, from our talk today. Thanks for being such a great guest. And everyone who's listening, feel free to post feedback on the Blog Talk Radio website for me. I would love your feedback, or you can contact me at info@breathebalance.com. That's info@breathebalance.com. So thank you, Ingrid, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much, and much body love to you all. You're gorgeous. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.